If the dog hadn't stopped the ship, he'd have caught the rabbit. That right, Tuck? Now, the reason I'm filming this in real time is it's lovely and clear up here on the moors. But we have very, very strange weather. And I'm going to try and do this in real time. Look how nice and clear it is. But here, you can probably see in the distance, the fog is coming in. It's quite amazing, really. Oh, here it comes. It's just heading towards us. What was clear? Oh, there's another one. Should have caught a rabbit. I have to pick this up. Oh, at least it's warm. Anyway. There you are. Between me bending down to pick that turd up, the fog has come in. It looks like it's going to be a dense one, which is why these dogs have got flashers on, which I will have to. Oh, fuck me, look. It is amazing to actually see things in nature like this. Come here, Finn. Come here. Come here, you little bugger. Yes. Turn the bloody thing on. Oi, Pep. Pep. Tucker, wait there. Wait. That's how you. Oi, come here, you little twat. Pep. Pepper. Wait. Come here. Come here. That's it. That's that. Put that bugger on there. See. Yes. Oh, bloody fairy lights, isn't they? Oh. Where are we now? Yeah, you can't see the hills now at all. I'm going up this gully where the grouse butts are. In case you're wondering what grouse butts are, posh knobs pay a lot of money, thousands and thousands of pounds, to shoot grouse off the moors. So they get a load of people to have these drives. They make a lot of noise and wave flags and plants about. And they hide behind here, these little stone things, with their guns. And there you go, they hide in there. The problem with grouse butts is people shit in them. When people are up here, walkers come and visit, and they get up here on the moors and they're taking a shot, they think, oh, there's a French toilet, I'll have a crap in there. Yeah, you got. Yeah, so that's what they do, that's what grouse butts are. Most people know that. On the grouse season starts on the 12th of August. And there's always some sort of race to get down to London to some Ponzi restaurant with the first grouse. I don't like game, I find it too strong. These posh knobs, they hang it up for about 2 weeks. I once, when I was a very young man gardening, we had, the people I was working for used to go off to all the things like Wimbledon and Henley and all these things that posh people do. And they rang me up the day before and said, would I get a couple of pheasants out of the freezer for them? Leave it on their table. So I went into the freezer, got this out, and the next morning I came in and the thing was alive with maggots. I didn't know they survived like that. But they weren't bothered, they just wash them out and eat it. As far as I know, they lived well into their 80s, they didn't kill them. Whether they got doses of the trots or not, I don't know. I don't think so, they never seem to get ill. there. Within the space of 5 minutes, we've gone from bright clear to this. This is why people get lost on moors, because these fogs, they come down within no time, and it gave me 5 minutes to just waffle about. Here I'll go right there. This is a panoramic view here. Look at that tree. Doesn't that look fascinating? All on its own in the fog. It's the only tree up here. There we are, panoramic. Actually, there's a couple of little trees, but they're few and far between. Once we get over this hill here, there's nothing. Right, now it's Maiden tree time at Eggleston. I'm just in helping out because there's some staff holidays and things. Now, Maiden trees are quite interesting. They're effectively a 1 year tree, but that's really 1 year from potting. I'll explain. We're just coming in the potting shed. If the cameraman can keep up. Right, a Maiden tree. This is a Maiden tree dug out of the field. It's just a single stem. This is a pure Maiden. If you look at the top here with the apical bud, the top bud, this is where the lead growth comes. If we just plant that as it is, this lead growth will put on extension growth next year throughout the summer, and it'll go bigger and bigger and bigger. All along here, some of these buds might start to grow out. They form then, if that happens and we don't cut them off, they form what's called a feathered Maiden. But what we do is cut them off at a height. This one has been cut off here. This is going to be a bush tree. A bush tree is cut off about 2 or 3 feet. Different growers have it at different heights, but really 2 foot to 4 foot is a bush tree, 4 foot to 6 foot is a half standard, 6 foot to 8 foot is a full standard. That's the big old fashioned apple trees, but some of these are on semi-dwarfing rootstocks, so there's no point cutting them off that high because the fuckers aren't going to grow. They're already at the height they're going to get. Anyway, that's digressing. We've cut that off. Thomas has processed a whole load of them down here, which I'm about to pot. They've all been cut off at various heights because he wants to do different things with them. This one, for example, has been cut off quite low down in the hope that it will form a step over or an espalier. But that's for another video, really. So that's a Maiden tree. What we have over here, let's get this cherry out. This is what we call a feathered Maiden. This is a Maiden tree where the laterals that have grown up incidentally have been left. We do this a lot with cherries, peaches, apricots, that sort of thing, because we want them to form a low down habit, because very often many of them get trained against a wall, or especially in the north of England, you couldn't grow them freestanding effectively. But that's a feathered Maiden. When we say a Maiden, it doesn't necessarily mean 1 year. You can see at the base here where it was budded or grafted. Now that will have grown up for the first year to about a foot or so, and then another 1.5 foot the following year. They will have cut off the laterals just to keep that extension growth going. But when we get it and pot it up, we call it a Maiden or a feathered Maiden. But let's go back to our original tree. By cutting them off here at a height, instead of this lead growth getting taller and taller, some of the buds at the top try to become the new lead growth. they vie for what's known as apical dominance, and these will put on branches or laterals. Now we try and keep them to about 4, and these 4 branches will then be cut back next winter, and the same happens at the end of those. So you're repeating the process, and then you build up a framework of branches. That's the important thing. Now, when you're planting a tree, a lot of people find it really desirable for instant impact to add or grow older trees in the garden. It isn't always as effective as growing a young tree. A young tree is vigorous and will grow on and on and on much quicker because it doesn't have all this growth, the laterals, the side branches to maintain. It's just got it can grow into its environment effectively, a young tree. So you plant a young tree and it grows into its environment much easier than an old tree because it's stuck in the ground. Even if it's in a pot like this, it's effectively still in that pot when it's planted until the roots get into the surrounding soil. It's also really important, and I can't emphasize this enough really, that when you take the planting hole out, to not just take it to the height of the root ball, dig up the bottom, because very often when they've been in a pot, the roots are wrapped around or they're condensed into the middle. So the new growth tends to come from the bottom first. So by turning over a few inches of soil at the bottom of your hole, you make it much easier for the tree. And the other thing is to not let the grass grow up to it. But that's maiden trees. We grow, or Thomas and Lisa grow, lots and lots of them here because they're much more effective and much more vigorous. You know, it's the difference between an old man and a young man. The young one tends to stand a bit taller. There. Now, we've just about got up to the top of the hill and we've actually come through the fog. Yeah. You can see down there the trees in the village just poking through. It is quite fascinating. How this works. Yeah. It's like looking out over a sea. The dark line at the top is actually the hills, and the grey line on the horizon is the fog. It's a fascinating thing. There's a gully there in front, and you can see it's just like sliding up there. Yeah, look at these trees here. It's quite, it never ceases to amaze me. It's starting to creep up on the top of the moor now. I was on the lower moor before, but now I've busted a bollock and got up here. Out the fog. Oi, Pepper. Cut the crap, Dad. Let's go. Come on then. So these ones here have already been potted. They'll go and up to the top of the garden. They'll be tied onto swags, and they'll grow on quite nicely. Now, the good thing about a maiden, if you buy an apple tree in a garden centre, you invariably get something that's 2, 3, 4 years old. Even if it's in a pot and they say it's a 2-year-old tree, it isn't a 2-year-old tree. It's much older because it's been sat in that pot for a long time and it hasn't necessarily been growing. It's had what we call a check, and if you've watched previous videos of mine, you'll know that I like to keep plants moving. It's important to keep them moving. Once they get a check, they become all tight and gnarled and they don't thrive, and then you need to get them away the next year if you can. But these are good. And of course, the other thing about a maiden tree is if you wanted to adapt it, if you wanted to grow an espalier or a fan, you can cut it back a bit more this winter, or you want to grow a step over. It enables you to train. When the head is already formed, you can't do that. I know it looks like you're just getting a fucking stick in a pot, but you're getting a stick that you can adapt to a shape of tree that you want. And the vigour of them is brilliant. It really is. This is, are you filming? Oh fuck, I didn't know. I was waffling on about sausage rolls. Now these will be half standards. Thomas last year has cut them off higher than the ones I showed you. And you can see, this year these will be cut back, these laterals. Well, this is a plum, so it might be done in April, May time. But these laterals will be cut back. And the head will start there. You can see where we stopped there, all these shoots here have now produced side growths. So you do the same again. You may have to clear out a few. There's a few too many here. You only really need 4 or 5 at the most, but with a nice even break all the way around. And the same happens at a different height. As I said to you, it depends where you cut the maiden back. That's where the break happens. It's just, you can do it yourself with the maiden, and you can do it at a height that you really like. But when we were talking about trees, you can see in this pot there's a lot of root in that pot. So when you plant an older tree like this, it's got a lot of growth. All of these buds are wanting to put on leaves, so it's going to have to pull up moisture and nutrition to get them to thrive, for the leaves to expand. Now, even when you put that in the ground, that is pot shaped. It's just a root ball that's pot shaped, so it's still in that pot. So you've got to water into that, and especially in a dry spell or anything like that, it's really, really important. So this tree has to adapt to its environment because it's already larger. The maiden is just so much easier for it because it hasn't got to do that initial maintenance. It hasn't got hundreds of buds. It's just got some buds up the stem, and it will break accordingly as to the growth it can maintain from the base. It's so much easier with a maiden. But people tend to want to grow. They want something there instantly. And I've seen so many people plant trees and they stick them in and they sit there for 2 or 3 years before they start to get away. It's just, I know what the thing is. It's also the journey. You know, it's quite interesting to watch something grow from a young age, but not everybody's like that. The same really applies with ornamentals. Now these are like from potting. These are probably 2 or 3 years old. That's from potting. That's not from grafting, but from potting. 2 or 3 years old, and they're especially if you plant them in the winter, they'll be okay. And that's about. But I really don't want to go much older than that, because it makes it really difficult. For the nurseryman, he can get round and help you a bit by putting them into bigger pots. we can put them into pots that are 2 or 3 times that size. That's about a 20-litre pot, so we could put them into a 35, well no, a 45 or a 60-litre pot. But again, that really ups the price. And I was watching a program, was it Clarkson's Farm or something, and Jeremy Clarkson, he planted because at the other end of the other extreme, you can plant bloody great big trees like this walnut behind you. Can you get that, Lucy? This walnut. Now, I put that in about 24 years ago, and it's a lovely tree. And you can buy trees that size without cost you hundreds or thousands of pounds, thousands or something that size. And I remember watching this Clarkson's program, and he lost quite a lot of his because it was the driest summer, and no matter how well you water them, it is really hard for the trees to adapt to their environment. But you're in serious money there. That's really just for the rich. And there, we've just got back. You can see. Let's see if we can get in close. That's the fog, and there's the farm. This will be interesting. You see how it's just getting closer and closer and closer to that farm. It's a very pleasant evening. But that's just about to get swallowed by the fog. I'll follow that skyline round in a minute because it's quite fascinating. There. It's clear here, but it's coming, in the words of South Park, it's coming right for us. Look at that. Let's go back to the end. Isn't nature amazing? It's absolutely amazing. It'll recede again, and it seems to be coming in and then going out. I think I've fogged out now. Perhaps one of the other things that's worth pointing out when you plant trees is planting them in grassland or a lawn. Over the years, I have seen literally hundreds of stunted little trees that are planted in grassland. Now, you can plant in a lawn, fine. A lot of people want an apple tree in a lawn, but in the initial years, you've got to keep a good circle around 3 or 4 foot wide. You look at that. All of that grass there is leaf. And that leaf is taking up nitrogen. That nitrogen should be going into your tree. It will restrict the growth no end. I've seen so many stunted little buggers in the ground, and sometimes people have got them and they've expanded a bit and they've got a bit of string around them, or up here it's bloody baling twine, and they're cutting into the tree, and the poor little bastard's got no chance of getting away whatsoever. And the other thing is about watering. If you plant a containerized tree in the summer or the spring or its first year, you need to give it water. If there is a dry spell, you must water it, because all it's got is that little root ball, and if that dries out, it's very hard to get water into it. And when you water, don't just piddle on it, don't just give it a spray and let the water evaporate out in about an hour. You need to put 10 bucketfuls on, or put the hose on it for 10 minutes. It's important to really soak it. You're better off doing that once a week or twice a week than pissing on it with a little bit of bloody water and spraying the bugger. I've seen people water plants and they just go, psst, that's it, psst, psst, psst. Oh, pisses me off. there we are then. To sum up, that is Lisa's phone. I don't have pink phones. Yeah, to sum up, I would say where you have the patience, try and start with a young tree. It's much more exciting to do it yourself. You can watch the tree develop and grow. You learn a skill, and the tree will, in most cases, get away much better. I like to plant young. It's fruiting or ornamental. Just wait that extra year and train it yourself if you can. 2-3 year old trees, fine, they're okay, they'll get away. But the young maiden trees, you can do so much more with. Here we are then, is that it? Are we going to go and have a sausage roll, Pepper? What? Fat little bastard. Look at this. What a beautiful day. 10 minutes ago it was as foggy as hell. You know what? If my bollocks weren't surplus to requirements, I'd be really worried because they're just about frozen off. Yeah. My God. It doesn't seem to bother them. That is a sea of fog down there. You can just see the trees poking through. It's really weird. On that horizon, there's like pink clouds. It's so beautiful. It's good to be alive, even if you're bollockless. Come on. Go on, off you go. Go on, bugger off.